some issues we need to take up. We also had a little bit of a technology issue that we're trying to address. I also fixed my sensor that overrides my sound blocking, and as a sanction, I will take my phone from myself and I'll confiscate it. All right. All right, go ahead, Ms. Frankish.
Ms. Harris, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. If you could please introduce yourself to the jury.
I am Lindsay Harris.
Ms. Harris, where are you employed?
I am employed at Cherokee Sheriff's Office.
And can you actually spell your first name for Mr. Cox since it's spelled?
Lindsay.
Thank you. And how are you employed with the Sheriff's Office?
I am the commander of the Intelligence Division.
What does that mean?
So I run a division that encompasses intelligence analysts who provide investigative support, digital forensic analysts who extract evidence from devices, and crime analysis.
How many people are in your unit?
10 total.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about how you came to be in that position, your education background, trainings, all of those fun things?
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a concentration in forensic behavioral sciences. I have a master's degree in public administration. I began my career as an intern with the Drug Enforcement Administration, which took me into a federally run drug task force where I was an intelligence analyst for over 7 years. After that job, I became the first intelligence analyst at the Cherokee Sheriff's Office, and that was approaching 7 years ago.
Do you, as an intelligence analyst, do you do continuing education, trainings, and those types of things to keep up with the latest technology?
Yes.
The digital world is constantly evolving. So about how many trainings do you go to a year?
It's hard to approximate, but I mean, we're training constantly. I could say on average, I go to one class a month at minimum. Of course, varying hours, but I attend week-long conferences annually, and we're always trying to keep up with the emerging technology.
What kind of certificates do you hold in your field?
I am a certified criminal intelligence analyst with the International Association of Law Enforcement Intelligence Analysts, also called IALEA. I am a certified cybercrime intelligence analyst, as well as a real-time crime professional.
Are you trained in certain softwares that assist you in analyzing digital evidence?
Yes, we use various softwares and programs throughout the course of our work, and we constantly train on the changes in technology again and how these systems can assist us. These systems are, law enforcement databases, open source, and softwares that can read certain records.
What does open source mean?
Open source would be social media, anything that you can use as a plain citizen, and then closed databases would be that of law enforcement only.
Some of these databases require purchasing the software, and then others you can just download on the internet.
That's correct.
And you've used a range of those types of softwares.
Absolutely.
Depending on what kind of evidence you're looking at.
Yes.
I want to talk about Cellebrite. What's Cellebrite?
Cellebrite is a software, and it's actually physical software that extracts the data from devices, whether it be a computer or a telephone, cell phone, and it extracts all the contents of the device.
What software program do you mainly use to analyze digital evidence personally?
We use a system called Penlink. It's a software that you receive records in various formats. So Cellebrite is one way of obtaining a record because it produces a report from the device, the contents of that device. So that report then has to be analyzed. So we use software that we can ingest this large amount of data, and it kind of decodes it in a way that's understandable for us to analyze.
Have you ever testified as an expert before?
I have.
About how many times?
Twice.
At this time, the state moves to admit Ms. Harris as a digital forensic, an expert in digital forensics, acquisition and analysis.
Just very simple, the things we've discussed outside the present degree, the limitations that have been described by the court.
All right, she's an expert and can testify and give her opinion based upon her expertise. All right, go ahead.
I'm going to actually kind of show an example. We've talked about reports, and we have already admitted a few, so I kind of want to go over those with you. Is this a Celebrite report?
Yes, this is a PDF version of what the system Cellbrite produces.
And when you receive a phone and it uploads, I don't know what I just did. And it gets.
It's going to do that every day
I know.
because you won't click the box that says stop doing that.
Next time I'll catch it. Okay. So we see Cellbrite up here in the right-hand corner, and then does it automatically produce the summary and source extraction boxes typically?
Yes, many of those are mandatory fields. Some fields can be added in that would give, examiner's name, but those you see there are mandatory fields.
Okay. And then the content actually within this can be selected how?
So, based upon the parameters of the search warrant, the contents of the device are extracted, and within each report, you can seclude some information. If you're just looking to analyze text messages at that moment, you can click through and just seclude text messages rather than everything in the device.
Okay, I want to start with the basics. During an investigation, detectives or investigators seize digital evidence in forms of cell phones, records from companies, all sorts of stuff. What happens between them obtaining these from either the person or the company? How does it get to you?
So records, again, they come in various formats, various time zones. So when the investigator receives the records, they're not easy to understand. They come in formats, they could be a text file, they could be a PDF, they could be Excel. And the investigator doesn't have the ability to quickly look and see what the information shows. So in turn, they ask an analyst, and they send the records or provide it to us in a digital format in which we begin our analysis.
So let's start with records, and then we'll move to physical devices.
Sure.
When you obtain records from a cell phone company, give an example of what it is that you're looking at and what you do with that record.
So phone records or call detail records is I believe what you're speaking of. So we receive call detail records from the provider. This is your typical T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. These records, dependent on what is written in the search warrant, they provide you essentially the transaction data. So this is going to show you the date, the time, the direction, the duration of the call, and then the source, whether it is a phone call or a text message. Now this is network based, again, based upon the carrier of the phone. And again, based upon the parameters of the search warrant, you could receive a cell site location with those records.
What is that dependent upon?
That's dependent upon the wording of the search warrant. If you ask for locations, or if you're just asking for call detail records.
So you could obtain records without locations if locations was not specified in the search warrant.
That's correct.
And let's move to physical devices. So we've talked about a Cellbrite report. When law enforcement collects a physical device from someone, and by physical device I mean like a cell phone, what should they do with it immediately upon seizure?
Well, as technology changes and updates happen on cell phones, it is constantly evolving. Practice has been, put the device in airplane mode, and this is to prevent external wiping. Again, keeping it charged. Once that device powers off, it is more difficult sometimes to get the contents out of that device. But again, the technology and the updates are constantly changing. On each update Apple pushes out, per se, could change the security requirements for us accessing that data.
And for general knowledge, could updates be happening in the background of a device
Yes.
without the user even knowing?
Absolutely.
When you receive that device from law enforcement and it's in airplane mode or whatever mode, that is to prevent signals, essentially like Wi-Fi connection, and then the you talked about the actual signals, like the phone company signals. Is that what that's for? Network.
Yes. So the physical device does have the ability to be wiped externally. So we always like to preserve evidence. So that's why we would do these certain steps. And sometimes you could place the device in a bag. It's called a Faraday bag, which doesn't allow signals to transmit to the device. But again, the phone records are based on the network, not necessarily the physical device. It's based upon the tower, the transmission of the records
And those come from the company.
That's correct.
Does the data sometimes overlap? Can you confirm data from a cell phone record in the phone itself?
Absolutely. They should correspond. Now, a user can delete, a text message or delete a call record. Our technology does most of the time still get deleted information, but yes, absolutely. You should be able to look at records, and if you have a device that hasn't been tampered with, you should be able to correlate.
When you have a physical device, do they say you have an iPhone and then you have a phone like a Samsung phone where it's an Android-based software? Are they going to extract the exact same data from each phone?
Not always. A company, everything's a little bit different in technology. Apple, again, sometimes their next update could require some apps to have Face ID now. Now that changes our ability to extract every single thing out of the phone. Android has different security protocols and updates as well. So, it's not always the same for every single device. And every device could be, iPhone 6 versus an iPhone 16 could have different technology.
So when you receive a physical device, say a phone, what do you do with it once you receive it from the detective or investigator? If you're going to extract it.
So the physical extraction of a device?
Yes.
So I currently do not download devices anymore. There is a team of digital forensic analysts that do such. But I can speak to their processes in which, they, again, try and preserve the best amount of data. And they log, they have their bench notes, and then they physically hook the device to a machine, which is the Cellbrite system we spoke of. And it runs you through a bunch of prompts in which it starts the extraction of data and then the decoding of the data, which creates that report.
Once you have extracted the phone in that process and in that manner, do you ever have to use the physical device again?
You don't have to, but sure, you can use the physical device to manipulate it and check your data, spot check it. But the system of Cellbrite will let you know exactly what is pulled, so you can verify I did get a report in completion of this device.
So if you have your extraction on the Cellbrite on your computer and then you have the physical phone, you can go into the physical phone and verify whether that extraction data is actually in the phone.
Sure.
So some people do that verification.
Yes, and the only exception would be deleted information. It might not be visible on the device, but it will be noted in your report, this is deleted.
Okay, and so when you obtain call detail records, how is it that you analyze call detail records?
So call detail records, again, are given in different formats, that's the theme, and we then ingest them into a software. I mentioned Penlink. So this software reads the record. It reads it, each column and row of whatever record we're receiving, and the system knows the companies and has learned the type of record each company gives. So in which I can set that my time zone is Eastern. So I want to view these records in my time zone of Eastern. So although the records come in UTC time, which is a 4 or 5 hour switch, depending, the system knows that I want to analyze this in a certain time zone and it will convert it for me. Now in the software, I can go in and I can spot check each row of data and look at the raw record and see, I can add in a column called provider time. So that's going to show me the UTC time zone, for instance, of the record, and then I can show the conversion to my time zone is correct. And again, it gives me another column I can add in call number, and that gives me the exact row on the PDF or the CSV or Excel file to go look at my raw record and compare it to what the software has read.
I want to talk about this case and how you became involved in this case. Can you tell the jury when you were involved and how?
So I was asked in 2018, July of 2018, to analyze some phone records. Again, it was a situation of the investigators wrote search warrants and got the return from the phone companies, opened up the documents, and they're like, I can't read this. We need someone to help us translate this information. So I was given the records, and I ingested them into the system and began analyzing them.
Do you remember whose records you were sent?
I was sent various records throughout the course, but I do remember initially I was sent records for Melody Ferris, records for Scott Ferris. I was sent a tower dump, lots of records for that. And I don't remember if these were all in July. It was over the course of when the phone companies were providing records and when the investigators were writing their warrants.
You mentioned tower dumps.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is to the jury?
So everything we've mentioned so far is sort of individual based. So you can ask a provider, AT&T, I need phone records on this phone number. So that's going to give me all the information based upon that telephone number. If you do what's called a tower dump or a reverse search, it could be called as well. This is asking a specific tower. This is asking each company, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. We want all of the transmissions from this tower during a certain amount of time, a date and time. So this is giving you a wide range of all different phone numbers, not individual based. And it's based upon the location of the towers.
What is useful about that to investigators and detectives when they're looking into a crime?
So tower dumps are used when you don't know who you're looking for, essentially. This is going to give you people's location based upon the location of the tower, who's making calls or sending text messages in a certain location.
Okay, at this time, the state's going to move to admit State's Exhibit Harris 1 and Harris 4 and 5.
All right. Objection? No objection.
All right, Ms. Harris, I'm going to pull up what the call detail records you received in this case, just to show as an example. All right, so this is what you received from a phone company, right?
Yes, this is an example of what a Verizon return looks like for call detail records with cell site information.
Okay. And I'm going to pull up this third Excel that says cell site incoming, outgoing.
Mhm.
So this is what the record looks like when you receive it.
Click the top left box. Go above A1. Click in that box, then expand. Pick one of the columns. Just drag the column wider. Excel's not liking our extra large.
I
I don't like it. Anyways, if I were to expand these fields, would there be... I want to expand the fields. Let's see.
Just get extra out. Just click on it and drag.
It's just highlighting it.
Yeah, doesn't like
It doesn't like that big icon. You can't get as fine as you want.
I should have just... Oh. This is how many records you get, right? Rows of 7,000, 8,000 rows, right?
It obviously varies, yes,
Yes.
based upon the date and time, but it's always large. Most of the time we receive a lot of records.
So I want to talk about each of these, and we're going to look in the field up here since I can't expand the field.
Sure.
So network element name, what is that?
That's, again, something the company categorizes for the area of the network in which the...
There you go. Oh,
in which the transaction took place.
And then this says mobile directory number. What is that?
So mobile directory number, again, these records are sent with a key within that file, and it will explain to you each field. So here you have exactly what Verizon tells us each field means.
And I'm pulling up historical IP log explanation form within this exhibit.
Well, this is IP. This is,
Look, yes. Okay. So this is sort of an explanation form. Is that what you're talking about?
yes, this is for the IP data, but
Okay, sure.
they send similar for call detail record, yes.
This.
Exactly, yes.
Is this what you typically use? The call detail record?
Absolutely. If you're going to look at a raw record like that, raw being the format you saw with all the numbers, this is a very good key to know which each column means. And this, again, is something that the system Penlink I use decodes based upon these fields.
And for the record, I'm showing historical call details with cell sites explanation form PDF within this exhibit. So the mobile directory number is the target number. What's a target number?
The target number would be the number that was written on the search warrant for the records.
And then dialed digital number is what?
That would be the number that target number is attempting to reach.
Call direction.
That is either incoming or outgoing.
And then calling party number.
This is, again, based upon how you see here, it is whether it's incoming or outgoing. And if you read this here, it's saying, you know, if the call is outbound, the column will be the same as the mobile directory, the target number. If it's, you'll see the called number and the calling party number if it's an outgoing, inbound, sorry.
So seizure date and time is date and time of each call.
Yep,
Seizure duration is the length of the call.
correct.
Okay. And that's what this Excel cell site incoming outgoing
Correct.
document that I just previously showed you, that's what this is explaining.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now you mentioned tower dumps. I'm going to pull up an example of a tower dump record. In Harris 4, I'm going to pull up Harris 4, which is the AT&T record. So I'm going to pull up the PDF that's titled Tower Search Records Key. Is this the same type of explanation form that we saw in the call detail records?
It is, just for a different company.
Okay. And then, all right, what are we looking at here?
So again, they come in formats that are not easily understandable. So this is the records of every single phone number that hit this AT&T network based upon the location of the towers that were asked for a date range and time. And what's different here than those call detail records we just looked at would be that target number is not the same, because we're not asking specifically for one phone number. We're asking for every phone number that hit a specific tower.
And that way, I mean, what do you do with this? Do you search for a certain phone number if you want to know if someone was possibly making a call during that, in this time frame?
Yes, various ways. I mean, if you know a phone number you're looking for, that would be an easy way to determine if they're in that location at that time. Tower dumps are also used if you don't know who you're looking for, but you know you have two locations. So I want to know if if there's any devices that hit this location and this location in common.
And is it broken down by date and time?
That is the parameters of the records. Now, they're not always sent in chronological order, but they send based upon the parameters of the search warrant.
So each section has a different kind of date range. This one says the 7/3/18, 9 p.m. to 7/4/2 a.m. about.
Yes, again,
And then-
they send them in various, every company's a little different. Sometimes they have, I'm gonna get really technical here, like LTE network technology is different than 5G. So they might send 3 different sets of records for a tower because there's all different types of technology on each tower.
And I do want to clarify, when you search for a phone number in a tower dump, what is going to make a phone number show up?
Well, again, here, you're gonna have both sides of the transaction. But what you have to make sure that you give attention to is, again, that target field because the target field is going to show the phone that's actually in the location of the tower. So, you know, a person's receiving both incoming and outgoing phone calls. So, although there's phone numbers on, you almost have 3 rows of phone numbers here. Well, you actually have 6, but one's just adding a 1. So, you have to make sure you're very careful to notice which phone is in the location of the tower and which phone is calling it.
So you get both the call maker and call receiver.
That's correct.
And this isn't going to tell you, this just tells you if someone was making a call in that area. It doesn't necessarily tell you whether that person was in the area. Is that fair?
It's, again, based upon the phone.
Right.
So
if they make a call, it'll show up.
A call or a text or a data connection, anything that would hit the network.
Okay, so if you didn't have Wi-Fi, but you're using like your Maps app and using the network to navigate, would that hit a tower?
Yes, that was, again, you pulled up IP data.
Oh.
That's something that you would see on a tower.
Okay. All right. There were other records associated with this case that you analyzed. I want to talk about some Google records. Did you receive Google records in this case?
I did.
In what forms?
Digital form, again. And Google Records, again, based upon the user's settings of their account, their Google account, is what the information you'll get back.
In this case, did you receive a general Google return for Gary Wayne Ferris's Gmail account?
I did.
And did you obtain what's called geofence records?
Yes.
Can you describe what geofence records are?
Sure. So very similar to how we were just talking about phone records, call detail records versus tower dump. It's similar. So geofence is asking, I want to draw a virtual fence around on a map of a certain location, and I want you to tell me any Gmail accounts or any Gmail activity, Google activity, within the fence I've drawn on a map. And it's going to give you any account that corresponds to Google within that fence and seclude everything else around it. Now, the Google return, again, is based upon the physical account. So I know I have a Gmail account in the name of Gary Ferris. I want all the records for this Google account.
And that could, so let's go through what Google records may include. So I have a Google Photos account. Could it include that?
Based upon your uploading and backup settings, absolutely.
My email, so my Gmail account.
Yes.
You get that. What else? I guess. Oh, so my Maps history, I use Google Maps.
Yes, locations.
And that may be included with any return if someone were to get a search warrant for my Gmail account.
Yes,
My
based
email
upon
account.
based upon your settings with your account and what Google is preserving.
So when you say geofence, I'm gonna use like this overhead aerial. So let's say in this case, or for example, they submitted the latitude and longitude of this box right here for the area for their fence. You would only get accounts that appeared in this area for whatever time frame
Correct.
they.
Any Google activity that took place during the date and time frame within the box that is drawn.
And that will be included in the search warrant itself.
Those
The
parameters?
parameters.
Yes,
And that's submitted by the sheriff's office, the search warrant.
correct.
So those parameters, the latitude, longitude, and the date range, are requested by the sheriff's office.
Correct.
And then the return will give you any Google activity within that area.
Yes,
Okay. And that could include Google location.
yes.
When you analyze digital evidence, how much do you typically know about the case?
Well, I personally like to know as much as I can so I can give the proper analysis. In looking at records, it's very important to know specific events or dates and times that are important to the investigation so I can focus my efforts in analysis.
Do detectives and investigators sometimes request specific information from you?
Yes.
In this case, did you have the opportunity to look at phone extractions of individuals?
Yes.
About how many people and whose extractions did you look at?
Hard to give an exact number, but
You can just name
yeah,
names.
I looked at Melody Ferris's phone extraction, Gary Ferris's phone extraction, Scott Ferris's phone, Terry Braswell's phone, Rusty Barton's phone. Trying to think if there's anyone else.
What about records? How many phone records did you look at?
Lots. Do you want me to try and name what ones?
Is
we
it the
got?
same, about the same people?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there was some phone records we did obtain without having devices, though.
So the records, you don't need the device itself. What do you
Right.
need to obtain a phone record?
The telephone number or some device identifier. I don't want to get too technical, and there's like something called an MZ. It's like a serial number. You could use that as well to obtain phone records.
In this case, did you obtain phone records for multiple numbers that were associated with Melody Ferris?
Yes.
Did you obtain multiple numbers associated with Rusty Barton?
Yes.
Now for extractions, how many physical extractions did you have for Melody Ferris?
1.
How many physical extractions did you have for Rusty Barton?
I believe 1 physical extraction. I have to look at my notes. I know there was a work phone number and a personal phone number. The personal phone number was the main focus.
The main number that you looked
And
at.
I do know for a fact that we had an extraction on the personal phone number.
Did you know the incident date of this case when you were analyzing these records?
I did.
Did you also focus around that time range when you were analyzing these records of the incident date itself?
Yes.
Did you have other information about when the crime may have possibly been committed?
Yes, I was given a time frame.
Ms. Harris, when you were looking at all of these records and extractions, what are steps you take to verify the data that you are analyzing?
Within the records.
The records and the phone, yeah, everything.
So again, I go back to the source. Whether it's records, I will go back to that raw record that's given through the company as I'm analyzing it, make sure it's accurate. And I will continuously speak with the case team with my findings and make sure, especially in the beginning of an investigation, it's a lot of moving parts and information's gathered in so many different areas. So as I analyze things and find things, I don't always know the relevance unless I speak to an investigator and say, this is what I'm seeing, here's the analysis of this record, do you need anything further? It's a constant back and forth of communication.
Did our office come to you and ask you to put together a presentation for this jury to go through the voluminous records that were obtained in this case?
Yes, one of the main goals of intelligence analysis is rendering the complexity of all these records and different sources of data into some simplistic and understandable format.
And did you, in fact, put something together for this jury so that they can understand the records in this case?
Yes.
What all records are included in that presentation?
So there is data from telephone extractions, there's data from call detail records, There's data from Google returns. There is data from, let's see, yeah, there's location data that comes along with the call detail records. There's also, within a phone extraction, there's various types of information you get out of the phone. Again, we talked about text messages, phone calls. There's also health data that was extracted from the device.
You mentioned something, and I want to clarify this for the jury. So we have Google locations, and then you have locations from call detail records.
Correct.
How do those differ? Can you explain the location from the call detail records, how that's obtained, and then versus the Google location records?
Yes. So when you ask a phone provider, AT&T, T-Mobile, I need call detail records with cell site locations, it's going to give you the tower that phone call transmitted through. So the companies will give you a certainty of a 3-mile radius that they serve that call. And so each call hits the tower and they say, if this phone call touched this tower, it's in a 3-mile radius. So it's a large area. Now, because that's network-based location. Google is a handset-based location. This is based upon the device GPS or the device's Wi-Fi or GPS, Wi-Fi, and cellular network as well. So Google location is far more precise at times because it's handset-based, not network-based.
I want to talk about these tower locations, the 3-mile radius. How do the towers work?
So,
And I'm pulling this out in case you want to draw an example of how you can tell
so
how the tower works.
Towers work differently based upon the location and how urban or rural you're in and how busy a tower may be. So you could be very close to a tower and your phone call is transmitting through that tower, but you'll still see a large pie if I get your records, or a piece of a pie, a sector. Because the company's only going to tell me your phone call was transmitted through this tower, and I can only give you the certainty of this piece of this 3-mile pie. So you can draw a circle around a cell tower, and you could say 3 miles somewhere within this area, this call took place. But I'm not going to give you a certainty of more than 3 miles unless I have a for sure sector of that tower, and then I'm going to give you a piece of a pie. Still goes 3 miles out, but it's narrowing down the face or the sector of the tower.
How many sectors can towers have?
Typically, it's 3 sectors. And that was one of the fields you saw in those raw records. It says azimuth sector, and that's decoding which side of the tower it may be.
So, oh yeah. So let's say here's a cell phone tower. Okay? I don't know. And then here's your 3-mile radius. And then the sector, you said it's like a piece of a pie?
Correct.
So it could be, and there's 3 sometimes?
Right.
So if it's like, it could be this could be a sector.
That's correct.
So then it would narrow down, this is where that phone is located.
That's correct. Now, sometimes they don't provide a sector, and you just get the circle, the whole pie.
I know, it's pretty light. Kind of looks like a volcano, but that's okay. Okay, and so when it came to the devices themselves, did certain people have locations in their devices turned on, location services?
Based upon a return from Google, yes.
And then other phones had no location information.
That's correct.
So you compiled people's locations based on the records that you had for that device or person's phone number.
That's correct.
And then, so for Gmail returns, we had Gary's Gmail account. Did he have locations included in that return?
Yes,
So you had his Google location.
that's correct.
And is each extraction of each device going to give you the same amount of information?
No,
So, for example, if you had Rusty Barton's cell phone and Melody Ferris's cell phone, they're not going to have the same log data, the same activity information provided. It just depends on how that phone is extracted.
it depends on the device itself, Apple versus Android, the version of the device, how old the actual handset is.
Judge, at this point, I will move into the next phase of the presentation.
Let's go, if we can go a little bit. We got,
Sure, I'll just make sure we.
yeah. We got 30 minutes before we
Mhm.
do other things.
Okay. Why is
If you got 20 minutes, we can.
Okay. All right, at this time, state moves to tender State's Exhibit Harris 6.
All right. Objections?
No objections other than all the other objections that I previously made. I stand on those.
All right, and this one, so just, we got.
And I'm going to stop before
Yeah,
we get.
right.
Yep.
Just walk through it and.
Sure.
I know there's something we gotta edit, but that's all right. Yeah, there we go.
Ms. Harris, is this the presentation that you put together for the jury based on all of the digital evidence that you were provided in this case?
It is?
And we reached out to you to start kind of a timeline, is that fair to say, of activity
Yes.
Among all of the family members and main players in this case.
Yes,
And we asked you to start with Monday, July 2nd, 2018?
correct.
Okay. These bubbles, what are we looking at as far as the data, where it came from, and why it's included?
This is a visual depiction of text messages that were found in a device. The bubble has two photos of the people within the conversation, as well as a time in which this message took place. For ease of understanding, I added some colors to try and show the different parties that are involved.
So we have, who's this over here?
This is Melody,
Melody Ferris?
Melody Ferris.
And then who's this over here?
This is Amanda Ferris.
Who is in the white?
So white is a message from Melody to the other party.
And who's blue?
Blue would be a message from Amanda to the other party.
Okay. If you could read into the record the 9:43 text message.
I got Gary's phone. He booked and paid for condo for Chris and Jenna. I'm beyond furious.
And Amanda's response at 9:55.
Oh, big surprise.
Melody's response to Amanda.
He's wrong for doing it, and when I specifically said no and had just reason.
And what is Amanda's response to Melody?
Yep, Chris will never grow up.
This is the same date,
Yes,
July 2nd. And what was Melody's response to Amanda?
but he refuses to help you with dentist.
And then Amanda says,
Yep, can't stop him. It's ridiculous. Keep
what
going.
is Melody's response to Amanda?
This is my last straw with him.
And the next message from Melody to Amanda is at what time?
3:07 p.m.
On the same date, July 2nd?
Yes.
What does she say to Amanda?
So Scott left at 8 this morning, gone to play golf, still gone. Then tomorrow goes to lake, so help me God.
Is this still July 2nd?
Yes.
All right, so we have introduced some new people. Who have we introduced?
This is Gary Ferris depicted in the green border and the green message.
So Gary is in green when he's the one sending the message.
Correct.
Okay. And this is between Melody and Gary at 3:07 p.m. Can you read that text, please?
Did you book a condo for Chris and Jenna?
And what does Gary say?
I booked one for me and the girls as well.
And then that was at 3:08, and at 3:14 p.m., what does Melody say to Amanda?
Just giving you a heads up about things. Chris continues to charge his cable, phone, and airline tickets to Gary's checking account. Charge their honeymoon and their beach trip year you got married to us as well. Now another beach trip after I told him no, and why. He never paid BK, Jenna's ring that was financed by us. I have had it. I'm taking measures to stop this insanity.
Are these messages verbatim the messages found in the phone?
Yes,
So BK, that is how it was typed in the phone.
correct.
Okay, this is on July 2nd, 2018. What are we looking at here?
This is a photo found in the device extraction of Melody Ferris's phone, and the capture time was 7:56 p.m. on July 2nd.
What is the photo of?
It appears to be a hand with some blood in a paper towel.
And I hope this works. Okay, what is this slide here?
This is a video that was found in the Google return for Gary Ferris's Gmail account.
And the time that you have here at 8:37, was that from the Google account itself?
Correct.
Was this video found in his phone extraction?
I don't believe I found it in the extraction. It was in the Google return.
When you leave a plate, forget to take it upstairs. A minor temper tantrum. Because I had supper tonight and it was 6 for me, so I'm sure I'll be feeling poorly here within minutes. But we'll see.
All right. All right, so now we're on Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018.
Yes.
And who do we have? We have introduced some new people. Well, not new people, but to the presentation. Who is this top message between?
Melody Ferris and Scott Ferris.
What does it say?
Let's go to Catch 22 Bar and Grill.
At 12:43. Okay, and then the next message is from who?
From Addie or Addison to Melody.
And what does it say?
Hey, Cameron and I want to have a sleepover at the farm tonight if it works out. Would that be okay with you?
Okay, and that's at 1:44 p.m.
Correct.
So we have a section underneath that says 206 Scott's phone location. Can you tell the jury about that?
So this is a map of Scott's device location at 2:06 p.m. Those pies you see, those sectors of the cell tower, and you see 2 here. That can mean the call began in one and ended in the other, or the call could have hit both towers.
So he is in the area of that radius and those sectors. So the pink
The-
area, that would be where his phone is.
Correct.
Okay. And you have 2 locations there for reference. What are the locations that you have included for reference?
2155 Purcell Lane is the home, the Ferris home, and Cherokee Ranch is the location in which the lunch took place.
So they ended up Cherokee Ranch. The text references Catch 22, but you know that they ended up at Cherokee Ranch
Correct.
based on other information. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And that's at 206. Scott's phone is up here.
Correct.
And that is near Lake Lanier?
Yes.
2:12, what does Melody say to Addie?
How about tomorrow night?
What does Addie say in response?
That's fine.
Okay, so now we have a blue message. What is this?
This is a message from Amanda, but it's a group text to Gary and Melody.
What time is that at?
3:09 p.m.
On what date?
July 3rd.
What does
2018.
that text message say?
Hey, I spoke with the prospective photographer. Y'all mentioned you wanted to have a sit down. She can meet us next Wednesday, the 11th at 10 a.m. She said we can do Alpharetta or Buford. She's in Athens, but her parents live in Alpharetta, so she's always there. I'm sure Mama will be going. Daddy, are you wanting to go?
And what does Gary say to this group text?
I was planning to go to the beach with the girls.
All right, and the next one is in white. Why is the next one in white?
It's in white and on this side of the screen, so I can show. This is not a reply to the group message. It's a reply just individually to Amanda
From who?
from Melody.
What does Melody say just to Amanda?
Ask him when he is going and coming, BK.
And then what does Melody say again?
Now is your time to say thanks for the invite.
So that's just to Amanda,
Correct.
not in the group text.
Correct.
All right, this is the same date, and we're back in the group chat, it appears.
Yes.
Okay, what time?
3:14 p.m. on July 3rd.
And what does Amanda say to her parents?
Oh, okay. Didn't know anything about it. Then will it be okay if Mama and I meet with her?
And then immediately after, what does Amanda say again?
The only reason I asked is because she has room to do one more wedding in May. Scared I might lose her.
And Gary says what?
Sure.
Okay, so we're still on the 3rd, but now we're on phone calls, it appears? Is that what this is? Tell the jury about that.
This depicts a record of a phone call. This is something gained through either a phone extraction or the call detail records.
Who is making that call and what time and to who?
Chris Ferris calls Gary Ferris at 3:51 p.m. on July 3rd, 2018. The call lasts 1 minute and 43 seconds.
All right. And at 3:53, what's that?
This is a call from Gary Ferris to Chris Ferris, and the call lasts 8 seconds in duration.
And we have some more text messages down at the bottom. Who is that from?
Ella,
What does she say to Melody?
we are here.
And again at 3:53, it looks like she sent these almost simultaneously. What's the next message?
I want you to come to the beach.
Was there a response to that message by Melody?
No.
So the next slide, we're still on July 3rd. So we have a call to Rusty. Was this on the same phone that all of the other conversations she was having was on?
No. If you see the red border indicates the second phone used by Melody Ferris.
Did she ever call Rusty on her personal phone? The one she uses to communicate with her family, that you could tell based on records?
All the communication I saw between Melody and Rusty were on the secondary phone.
Okay. And what I'm gonna do is, you know these records very well. Do you know the last four of the phone she used with Rusty? The last four digits.
1987.
And then what is the last four digits of her personal phone that she uses for her family?
It's 90. I always get her and Gary's confused with the same digits. I believe hers 9029.
Okay. So these are her two phone numbers. And what did we have for the 1987 number when it comes to digital evidence?
The 1987 number, we have call detail records with cell site, no phone extraction. The 9029 number, we have phone extraction and call detail records.
So we never had the physical phone for this phone number.
That's correct.
Okay, but we did have the physical phone for this phone.
That's correct.
So this call from Melody to Rusty, how did you know this call existed?
Because I was provided call detail records.
Okay. So at 4:02, she calls Rusty for how long?
17 minutes and 36 seconds.
Okay. And then at 4:36,
12 minutes and 2 seconds.
and at 4:50, it looks like Amanda texts her mom. What does she say?
Chris just texted me asking my plans, and Addison wants to know. I did not answer. He called. I did not answer.
All right, and we're still on July 3rd. What does Melody reply to Amanda?
He's here now,
And then what does Amanda say?
of course,
And again,
dropping his kids off.
what does Melody say to Amanda at 5:16 p.m.?
He dropped Ella at Emma's house and took Addison with him.
All right, so we have the red. Red is the 1987 number.
Correct.
And how long does that call to Rusty last?
11 minutes, 30 seconds.
Okay. And again at 5:31.
4 minutes, 56 seconds.
What does Amanda's text to Melody say at 5:52 p.m.?
Oh, that's nice.
What is the next message at 7 p.m.? Okay.
Similar to what I instructed y'all yesterday during one of the interviews or the phone conversations, the statements from Ms. Ferris, the defendant, are admissible. The statements from the other parties, if you don't hear testimony about that, are not being offered for the truth of what they are saying. They are only being offered in context of the other conversation to the statements that the defendant makes and to establish the timeline. All right, go ahead.
So I want to ask you at 5:52 p.m., well, this call at 5:31 that Ms. Ferris has with Rusty, and then Amanda hits her up at 5:52 and 7 o'clock p.m. Did Melody ever respond to the 5:52 text message?
Nope.
You're not leaving that out or anything.
Nope.
And then Amanda to Melody, this photography screenshot. Did she respond to that?
No.
So the last activity we have for her, at least up till 7 o'clock at this point, is the 5:31 call to Rusty.
Sorry, say again.
The digital evidence was the last call she made was at 5:31, and she did not respond to Amanda either of these times.
I believe there's more in the next slide as far as other calls that day, if that's what you're asking. But
Well, let me just hang on 1 second.
are you asking on a specific phone?
Yes, her personal phone. Did she have any activity after this 5:31 call from Melody to Rusty up until the 7 o'clock time?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay. All right. What are we looking at here? And this is still July 3rd. What are we looking at here?
This is location data based upon Google return for Gary Ferris's device. And the circle on the map shows Google provides location. Again, it's more precision located based on the handset, but they give a certainty amount. So within that circle, they give a certainty amount of 10 meters, 20 meters, and that's what's depicted within the purple circle there, is the amount of certainty of where the device is located.
So it appears Gary's device is moving away from the property up towards Free Home
Yes,
from 8:28 to 8:40.
correct.
What is this?
This is showing, again, a satellite view of the point of Gary's device from 8:40 to 9:21 p.m. on July 3rd.
And that is in that free home area? Go back.
Correct.
Is that in this free home area right here at the top?
Yes.
Like that 840 ping, is that in the same location?
Yeah, so then the satellite view shows it was a repeat location, same certainty and everything.
Okay, so at 9:26 p.m., what are we looking at there?
A call from Melody to Rusty on the 1987 phone.
Was there activity on Melody's personal phone prior to this, after that text with Amanda?
No, she never replied to that 7 p.m. text.
Did
so-
she text anyone else?
No,
Did she call anyone else?
no. On the
On the personal phone?
Personal.
The 9029 number.
correct.
So what's the next,
So this is
activity you
showing, again, Google location for Gary's handset between the times of 9:26 and 9:32 p.m.
And it looks like he's moving closer to the house,
Correct.
or his phone is. All right. So what are we looking at on the next slide?
This is the location of Gary's handset within the purple circle again at 9:34 p.m. on July 3rd.
And that's a little bit wider radius.
Correct.
And that's the house, 2155 Purcell Lane.
Correct.
Okay, now we're at 10:52 p.m. What are we looking at here?
This is a call from Melody Ferris on the 9029 personal phone to Scott, in which the call takes place for 1 minute and 5 seconds.
What's the map down below?
That is the record of the call based upon Scott's location.
So his location between when he left up to the lake at 2, whatever that previous slide said, 2, a little after 2 o'clock, and this 10:52 call, did his location ever show closer to the house?
Now, it remained in the northern area up there.
Towards the lake.
Yes.
So when he received this call at 10:52, he's in that cone sector, that pink area,
Correct.
or his phone is in that location.
Correct.
You want a good stopping point?
Good stuff.
Okay.
If it is for you. All right.
Yep.
Because food's here, and you don't want me to read